On today's Business Matters, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is with President Trump on his visit to the Middle East. Bessent spoke at the Saudi-U.S. Investment Forum in Riyadh today, and he said he's optimistic the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that President Donald Trump signed into law during his first term will become permanent. The U.S. Treasury Secretary added that the tax cuts would have new features that are very friendly to capital. And Honda and Nissan issued lower profit forecasts today due to the expected effect of U.S. tariffs. Honda predicted its operating profit would fall nearly 60% for the fiscal year that started last month. The Japanese automaker expects a more than $4 billion hit from tariffs, and Nissan said it will likely also have an operating loss for its first quarter. Its chief executive says it will cost the company about $3 billion in what he called exposure to tariffs from the U.S. He said if the tariffs were rolled back, the company would likely break even for the year. The Japanese automaker forecasts come a day after the Trump administration agreed to a temporary, drastic rollback of its tariffs against China. And top artificial intelligence chips being delivered in the Middle East for data centers. During a White House-led trip to the region, the head of NVIDIA announced that it will sell more than 18,000 of its latest AI chips to Saudi company Humane. The move underscores the importance of NVIDIA's chips to the Trump administration as a bargaining tool. The chips are in high demand around the world since they are used to train and run advanced AI software. And a crack in climbing egg prices. The average price for a dozen grade A eggs dropped to $5.12 last month. Prices reached a record high the month before at $6.23. And this is based on the Consumer Price Index. The dip was the first month-to-month drop in egg prices since October of last year. Wholesale egg prices have been coming down for a while, but retail prices are still close to historic highs. That's because of persistent bird flu and due to demand usually being high in April around Easter and Passover. In the past 3 years, close to 170 million birds have been killed. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that the average price for a dozen large eggs was still about 80% higher than a year ago. That's when they averaged around $2.86 a dozen. Inflation slowed more than expected in April, and this is despite building tariff-related price pressures. Consumer prices rose 2.2%, or rather 0.2%, last month. That brings the annual inflation rate to 2.3% in total. It's the lowest annual rate since February of 2021. The latest Consumer Price Index data was released today by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Despite the better news, perhaps it may not last because at least some experts are believing that tariff-related price adjustments will likely make their presence felt in the coming months. And the receipts are in on the new tariffs on U.S. trading partners. The Treasury Department is reporting tariffs collected last month nearly doubled from the year before. Here's more.
In April, the U.S. collected roughly $500 million a day. This is based on data released by the Treasury Department. The government posted a $258 billion budget surplus last month, up more than 20% from a year earlier. The surplus reflects a surge in import duties collected. Treasury reports that net customs duties in April totaled $16 billion. That's almost double the amount from a year earlier. The increase aligned with the start of new U.S. tariffs. President Trump issued tariffs of at least 10% on trading partners and a staggering 145% on Chinese goods. These numbers are expected to drop off as trading partners, including China, reach agreements to pause or adjust tariffs. At the same time, the Treasury reports that the fiscal year-to-date deficit fell to about $1 trillion, which is still higher than a year ago.
Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs has lowered the chance of a U.S. recession now that the U.S. and China have agreed to reduce their tariffs. It told clients Monday that it estimates a 35% chance of a recession within the next 12 months. The Wall Street Bank previously had the odds at 45%. Goldman Sachs also increased its yearly GDP forecast to 1%. It had previously forecast annual growth of 0.5%. The bank is also projecting that unemployment will rise to 4.5% in December, and that's down slightly from its previous projection of 4.7%. The bank also said it expects the Federal Reserve to start cutting interest rates starting in December. It previously expected rate cuts would resume in July. Republicans have unveiled their long-awaited multi-trillion-dollar tax proposal. President Trump is calling it one big beautiful bill. NTD's Daniel Monahan breaks down the highlights.
Republicans say the bill would save families around $1,700 a year and boost take-home pay for households with 2 children by up to $5,000. It locks in the lower tax rates from the 2017 Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, set to expire in 2025, making them permanent. It expands the child tax credit to $2,500 from $1,000 until 2029 and keeps it at $2,000 after that. The bill raises the estate tax exemption from $14 million to $15 million and exempts taxes on some tipped income and overtime pay. It also exempts taxes on interest payments on loans for domestic vehicles. Up to $5,000 for contributions to scholarship funds for private schools would also be exempt. The bill also allows taxpayers to deduct up to $30,000 for state and local tax payments, up from $10,000 now, and creates a new $4,000 deduction for seniors. Parents would be able to contribute up to $5,000 a year tax-free into special savings accounts for their children, usable for school, housing, or other costs when they reach adulthood. There's also support for businesses offering paid family and medical leave via tax credits. The bill also makes the 23% small business deduction permanent, supports 100% expensing for factories, and repeals the IRS gig worker reporting rule. Overall, the bill proposes $4 trillion in tax cuts and $1.5 trillion in spending cuts over 10 years, while also raising the borrowing limit by $4 trillion. Congressman Jason Smith described the bill as pro-family, pro-worker, speaking on Fox News.
Making permanent the expiring provisions of Trump's successful 2017 tax cuts will provide more certainty for small businesses. For example, the small business deduction affects 30 million small businesses. And right now, they don't know if their tax rate was going to be 43.4%, around 25%.
Despite early discussions, the final bill does not raise taxes on wealthy individuals or introduce a millionaire's tax.
It's not in this bill. All the tax rates are staying the same as what they currently are. What is in this bill is delivering for working class Americans. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tax relief for seniors.
The bill raises taxes on the biggest university endowments from 1.4% to 21%.
And we're actually going after those elite universities, special interest, and making them held accountable.
The bill ends tax credits for illegal immigrants, and economists warn that if the Trump-era tax cuts aren't extended, nearly 2/3 of taxpayers could see higher taxes in 2026. One item is missing: the president's promise to eliminate taxes on Social Security benefits. However, Representative Thomas Massie has introduced separate legislation to do just that. The Ways and Means Committee is scheduled to mark up the bill May 13th. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the legislative process has exceeded expectations, adding that the administration's full economic plan on trade, tax, and regulation could be complete by the end of the year. With Republican control of both chambers in the White House, the bill could pass through budget reconciliation, needing only a simple majority in the Senate. The tax package comes as the federal government reported a $258 billion budget surplus in April, up 23% from a year ago. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
In auto news, GM believes it has a game-changing battery for electric trucks. The car maker is hoping to pioneer lithium manganese-rich prismatic battery cells. These new batteries and the chemistry inside them use more prevalent, less expensive materials like manganese. Current EV batteries use cobalt and nickel. GM says the LMR battery will reduce costs and boost profitability for its largest electric SUVs and trucks. It hopes to start using the new batteries by the beginning of 2028. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin has fired shots at start-stop technology in cars and trucks, posting on X that the agency plans to take action against the system. It's a technology that aims to save fuel and reduce emissions by automatically turning off the engine every time a vehicle stops for a certain amount of time. NTD's Shar Marshall has more.
Okay, the EPA is dumping the annoying start-stop technology. And the reason they're doing this is not just consumer frustration, but the truth behind it is it really doesn't do anything other than frustrate people, and actually it takes away some of the safety.
Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Lee Zeldin posted this statement on Monday. Start-stop technology where your car dies at every red light so companies can get a climate participation trophy. EPA approved it and everyone hates it, so we're fixing it. But why exactly is the Trump administration going after start-stop technology? Auto expert Lauren Fix explains what it is, why it exists, and why so many people don't like it.
Start-stop technology is when you get to a traffic light, you put your foot on the brake, you're not moving, the vehicle will shut off, unless it needs to cycle back up for air conditioning or for heat.
Fix mentions it takes away much-needed safety features like the ability to accelerate quickly to avoid an accident or other dangerous situations.
So when the light turns green, you step on the gas, the vehicle restarts. It is not good for the starter. It's not good for the engine, although manufacturers will tell you that it is. But it was all put under the guise through bureaucrats that said that it would save fuel. In reality, the measurement is less than a tablespoon of fuel you will save over a full tank of gas. Absolutely, it's a waste, and people don't like it.
Opponents of the technology say one reason it's so heavily employed is that it provides extra fuel economy credit to auto manufacturers. In 2016, only about 9% of passenger cars had the feature. In 2022, the number grew to about 65%, according to a 2023 EPA Automotive Trends report. But not everybody hates it. About 1 in 10 commenters on Lee Zeldin's X post expressed support for start-stop technology. Proponents say that the feature reduces carbon emissions. They also point out that drivers always have the option to turn the system off. But opponents counter that they have to remember to do so every time they start their vehicle. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
Finally, the price you see is the price you get. The Federal Trade Commission's new rule requires sellers to disclose total prices up front, and this is now in effect. That means no more hiding fees and add-on charges until the last minute. This applies to live event tickets, hotels, vacation rental platforms, and others. The bipartisan junk fees rule was finalized in December and took effect on Monday. Ticketmaster was one of the main targets of this so-called junk fees ban. It unveiled on its blog that customers will now be seeing all-in pricing. In a statement, Ticketmaster said it has long been an advocate for all-in pricing to become a nationwide standard. It won't be whenever, wherever for Shakira fans trying to get to her concert on public transportation. The singer's shows have been caught in the crosshairs of an ongoing strike negotiation. This is between NJ Transit and the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers. On social media, NJ Transit said that due to the potential rail service stoppage, it will not be operating train or bus services to MetLife Stadium. This will impact the Shakira concert on Thursday and Friday this week. The Agriculture Department has suspended live cattle, horse, and bison imports through the southern border due to the threat of a dangerous flesh-eating parasite. It's called the New World screwworm, which is actually a fly. The name comes from how its maggots feed on an animal by burrowing or screwing into a wound or opening. The New World screwworm was eradicated in the U.S. nearly 6 decades ago. The Department of Agriculture said the parasite was recently detected in remote Mexican farms. A Mexican agriculture official said the ban is unnecessary and doesn't fix the problem. And if you're planning to take a cruise to Mexico, you'll soon have to pay a $5 fee. Mexico's new cruise passenger fee will begin on July 1st. According to the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association, the $5 fee will increase to $10 on August 1st, 2026. It will then bump up to $15 the following summer and then $21 in August 2028. The one-time fee was set to go into effect at $42, but pushback from the cruise industry delayed it. The industry and Mexican government struck a compromise on the new fee structure. According to the Mexican Association of Shipping Agents, passengers had previously been exempt from tourist taxes. Industry leaders say more than 10 million cruise passengers are expected to visit Mexico in 2025. And some major trade news. The White House is rolling back a key tariff on China. A White House executive issued late yesterday that the U.S. would cut the de minimis tariff on China shipments to 54%. That's down from the previous 125%. Here's more.
A day after news of the US-China agreement on trade, there were signs of further steps being taken. Speaking in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the agreement had created a mechanism to avoid escalation. He said the US did not want to see a general decoupling of the two countries' economies.
What we want is the U.S. is going to decouple in strategic industries, which we saw during COVID. We had become woefully non-self-sufficient.
The new agreement set a 90-day pause under which most of the levies recently imposed would be drastically reduced. Among concrete steps, Washington said late Monday it would slash the levies imposed on so-called de minimis shipments, low-value packages that used to be duty-free. The US had hiked tariffs on the parcels to 120%, but will now bring them back down to 54%. That's likely to be a boost for online giants like Temu and Shein, which have built their rapid growth on the de minimis provision. However, a minimum flat fee of $100 will remain in place. Excitement over the trade deal initially lifted global stocks on Tuesday, but some of the optimism later waned, with equities in Shanghai closing broadly flat. Economists pointed out that the agreement still leaves average tariffs significantly higher than they were before the turmoil began.
And quickly, let's go through markets today. S&P 500 and NASDAQ rose for a second straight day. And this is lifted by softer than expected inflation data and a U.S.-China trade truce temporarily that boosted investor confidence. The Dow, however, declined. It was dragged down by a sharp drop in United Health shares following the CEO's resignation and a forecast suspension. So technology led S&P gains while healthcare lagged. S&P 500 and NASDAQ have now recovered from their losses since Trump's April 2nd tariff announcement. And that's it for today's Business Matters.